class, my name is Stacy DeMoss, and I will be presenting on the history of Martin Luther King Jr. My group partners are Nancy Saturn, Courtney Parrish, and Tiffany Martinez. I'd like to start my presentation with a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. All we say to America is, be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any other totalitarian country, maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges, because they hadn't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of freedom of assembly, somewhere I read of freedom of speech, somewhere I read of freedom of the press, somewhere I read that greatness of America is the right to protest for right. Next, I will move into early life. Martin Luther King Jr.'s upbringing. Martin Luther King Jr. was born on January 15, 1929. He grew up as the son of a leading minister in Atlanta, Georgia. His father was the Reverend Martin Luther King Sr. His mother, Miss Alberta Williams King, supported her husband in the care of his congregation. Martin Luther King Jr.'s parents were known as Mama and Daddy King. Next, I'll move into Martin Luther King Jr.'s socioeconomic background. His neighbors in Atlanta were also very influential towards him and were known for their diversity. The neighbors were all of color and consisted of professional business people, workers, educated, uneducated, wealthy, underprivileged, and successful, all living in close proximity. He was exposed to a wide range of backgrounds and saw both struggling as well as being successful, enabling him to have and to do things that many others couldn't do. Next, I will move into politics. These are Martin Luther King's early life influences. Martin Luther King Jr. received a doctorate degree in theology in 1955. He helped organize the first major protest of African American civil rights movement, named the successful Montgomery bus boycott. King was influenced and inspired by Gandhi, who led a successful campaign for India's independence. The King promoted civil disobedience and nonviolent resistance to segregation in the South. The protests he led were peaceful through the South. Unfortunately, they faced violence along the way. As they continued, the movement gained momentum. Martin Luther King Jr. was a powerful speaker and gained support from the federal government and some whites. He is also well known for his famous I Have a Dream speech that was accompanied by 250,000 people. The creation of his movement. One of the 20th century's best-known advocates for nonviolent social change, King and other civil rights activists were arrested after leading the boycott of Montgomery, Alabama Transportation Company. This allowed whites to take non-whites seats, leaving the non-whites standing or sitting in the back of the bus. Over the next decade, King continued writing and speaking and organizing nonviolent protest. He was drawing attention to the racial discrimination and advocating for civil rights to protect the rights of African Americans. King was so powerful that Congress enacted the Civil Rights Act in 1964. He is the icon of the civil rights movement. Next, I'll move into his role in the civil rights movement. These are the basic tenets of the civil rights. Civil rights are basic legal rights a person must possess in order to have such a status. They are rights that constitute free and equal citizenship and include personal, political, and economical rights. Civil and political rights are a class of rights that protect individuals' freedom from infringement by governments, social organization, and private individuals. They ensure one's entitlement to participate in civil and political life of the society and state without discrimination or repression. Civil rights include ensuring of people's physical and mental integrity, life and safety, protection from discrimination on grounds such as race, gender, sexual orientation, national origin, color, age, political affiliation, ethnicity, religion, and disability, and individual rights such as privacy and freedom of thought, speech, religion, press, assembly, and movement. Outcomes of Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King Jr., a Baptist minister and social activist. He led the civil rights movement from 1950s until his death by assassination on April 4th of 1968. His leadership was essential to the success of ending the legal segregation of African Americans. King's status was head of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which promoted nonviolence. He led the March on Washington to achieve the civil rights. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. Next, we will cover the assassination, a culture of hatred, another quote of King's. Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out other hate, only love can do that. He believed in God's nature instead of the potential of the human race and knew the distinction between right and wrong. He believed that every man and woman has the duty to resist evil and seek the good in things. King believed that ethical goals must be achieved by honest methods and that killing for a cause is less powerful than suffering for one. Equality. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X were both appreciated and valued leaders of the American Civil Rights Movement, working for racial equality and freedom. King advocated nonviolently for equal civil rights. Malcolm X had a different approach for the Black Muslim movement, which aggressively rejected whites and Christian values and preached for the control of blacks over whites. A half-century after their assassinations, both Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X remain two of the most respected protesters. Thank you.